Hey everyone, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone in this video. This is a LEGO Technic motorcycle, and I personally am not at all a Technic specialist, and truth be told, in real life, I'm not a huge fan of motorcycles. I have nothing against them. I get them. I understand the appeal of motorcycles. I understand the appeal of LEGO Technic, to be sure, but just I personally prefer brick-based stuff, and I prefer vehicles with 4 or more wheels and tires. But I had to get this because it looked really cool. And it is also sometimes good to intentionally step out of one's own comfort zone. So let's check out the LEGO Technic Ducati Panigale V4R. The real life machine is a liter bike with some pretty impressive stats. The LEGO version is 600 and some pieces, and it took me about 2 hours to assemble this. Now, to put that into perspective, had it been a system set, regular brick-based, construction, probably would have taken me about an hour and 15 minutes, I would say. So just the complexity combined with the lack of familiarity with the techniques. I mean, I'm not particularly terrible at putting this stuff together, but it's a different experience. And there were some pretty convoluted builds inside, especially to start this off. And a lot of things fit together in unexpected ways. It feels like a little bit of a three-dimensional puzzle, almost like a maze at some points. As it goes together, figuring out, what exact angle are we using? You have to be very careful with the instructions. But in the end, it all works out pretty well. Now, comparing this to photos of the real thing that you can find all over the internet, I think this looks pretty good. It doesn't quite nail the look. The real one has more fairing to it. I think that most of the major shapes were captured pretty well, but especially this area right here, I think really could have been filled in a bit more on this model. One of the things I personally found to be particularly interesting in how this was built as a LEGO model is right here with the windscreen, but it's actually really simple. It's just a single piece of vinyl. It comes on a single sheet. You just pop it out of a die cut. It has a print on it. There's no weird border. It's actually done pretty well. It is a little bit foggy. It's too bad that it's not completely clear, but that does help you to see it at least. And that's actually held onto the bike with a couple of katanas, a couple minifig katana swords, which is it's a funny thing. It is a little bit awkward, given real world rivalries and all, that they used Japanese swords to hold that on, but that's what they did, and it does the job quite well. This uses very few system pieces in total, and one of the pieces is that 2x3, let's see if I can get that in there, 2x3 tile there with a single sticker on it. Hey, I asked you to focus, and you're not focusing. There we go. Yeah, so that's actually a pretty good one. And other than that, there are just a small number of pieces, like for the headlights, a couple of tile pieces used there. The shaping is not exactly ideal, but it's kind of cool at least. I don't think it properly matches the real thing, the nose area, but it is fun how it goes together. It's a bunch of sub-assemblies that go together. These little fins off to the sides, I personally didn't know what they were supposed to be on the real thing until I looked at the real thing. They literally provide aerodynamic downforce on the thing, which is just wild to think about. A bike that production motorcycle that has aerodynamic devices on it that actually work. That is kind of shocking, and just how much that they've put into trying to extract maximum performance out of this. This uses some new brake disc pieces that LEGO has molded. There's just an axle hole in each of those. There's one on either side. It's a pretty complex, interesting looking piece. And these forks are also new, introduced for this particular model. They've got just springs inside of them. I think the spring rate is fairly appropriate here, but they are a little bit on the flexible side. They don't provide great stability. You can feel like the whole thing is flexing quite a bit. There's also working suspension at the rear to see that. We're onto this side, so that's just a stiff spring there. I don't think it's the stiffest spring that they've done. Multi-rate It doesn't really work as a multi-rate one though, because those closer together coils don't really expand. But this is maybe just a little bit on the soft side. This is a chain-driven single swing arm design that is done pretty well here in Lego form. And there is a bunch of gearing that goes into this, connecting ultimately up to a real V4 engine build. So you can see just a little bit of the block. It uses those same cylinder pieces that Lego's been using forever now. And 2 banks of 2. Ultimately, there's a gear train in there, and there's a working sort of transmission. So let me back this off just a little bit and get both hands in there. It's your shift peg right here. Right now it's in neutral. Oh yeah, this stand is pretty nice. It's simple, but works well, looks appropriate, does its job. Even got the little wheels on it so you can roll the thing around. But as it is right now, it's in neutral. This central location right there, that's neutral. This does feel a little bit loose to me. You can take one link out of there if you want, but this is how they had it set up. So you can see that the pistons are not moving whatsoever. And then you've got one gear there. It's one ratio. And up is the other ratio. So that's kind of cool. You can see the clutch pack spinning from the outside realistically. The way that they do the shifting here is something that's new to me personally. I don't know how new the component is, but if you look down in there, you'll see just a little glint of orange. It's a helical shifter. So rather than the old cog style that would move a gear back and forth with just a linear rocker, basically, this is helical. So as it spins, it's actually bringing the moving gears back and forth. It basically is the shape of a screw, like an Archimedes screw. So it moves things forward and back, and it also has little catches at the end to help it to stay in place. But also to help this to stay in place, we've got a little mechanism on this side, works with that. So it's just making sure that things are lined up properly. So there's neutral, there's one gear, there's the other gear. That's that. So when it's in gear, again, you can see all the gears moving, which is pretty cool. You can see axles up here. I mean, the Lego Technic motor build, ultimately itself, the block is really short. You know, it's not realistic size, so they have to move the motion an unrealistic distance. But I think it's done pretty well there. And these fairing panels, these body panels, are not attached with a whole lot of stuff. I'm just going to flip this one down for now. You can also just take out one other pin. That just gives you a little bit better look at the interior. The frame is funky. It's all over the place, all the different building directions. But it was fun. It was actually enjoyable to put it together. I personally made a couple mistakes along the way. It was not that difficult to correct them, and I'm happy with the end results. There's your steering there. What else is there to really talk about here? Tiny little fender at the back, absolutely minimal. Got your exhaust header right there. Outlets are down below. Could have been a little bit larger, a little bit closer to the surface, if you will. But they use stickers for the detail there. It's kind of important. This back into neutral. Oh yeah, speaking of stickers, there are a lot of stickers used on this. Sticker there. Did I mention this one already? There. Other side, double everything that I just did. Plus back here, and for the seat. So there's one right there. We're looking at it from the wrong way. And then there's a tiny little one at the back with the logo down in there. I'll show you the sticker sheet later. It's pretty daunting, even though this is a fairly large thing. It's not huge. The sticker sheet is almost as big as the vehicle itself. But just generally speaking, as someone who's not a Technic fan, not a motorcycle enthusiast, I'm pretty happy with this. And it looks really good on display. The fact that you can actually get to the mechanisms, some of the mechanisms work, that's good to see. I hate it when stuff gets hidden away. When you put a ton of work into a Technic build and then most of it just gets hidden away, you're not able to really appreciate it at all afterwards. With this, with those fairing assemblies. You can get back to them. You can see, oh yeah, this rear tire. I think this is a new tire for this year. It's a half fat. It's not full fat. It's not the one that they use that requires 2 wheels that they use for the back of the Harley Davidson. So this is just extra wide. It has a really wide and sharp corner profile or shoulder profile to it compared to the one that's up front, which is just your standard fare for large Lego Technic motorcycles. Durability is really good here. I mean, you can grab this, you can kind of throw it around. You can probably put it on the ground, just roll it, let it fall over onto the ground. There's nothing really to worry about here. Probably the least durable thing is just that windscreen, because it can get scratched up because it is just a piece of vinyl. Would have been good if they included a spare of that for that very reason. Wouldn't have cost them too much more. But overall, there's just not much that I can complain about here with this. It looks cool. It looks fun. It looks like something that even I, as again, a non-bike person, be happy to have on a shelf. Will be happy to have on a shelf just to look at it. It's not 100% perfect. It's not 100% realistic, but it's good. I like it. I'm glad that I bought it. Here are the spare parts, the leftover parts, and honestly, I'm suspicious about one of those black pins because all the black pins came in a single bag, which means that there should have only been one to spare, which means that I missed one at some point. Didn't cause any actual issues. Not entirely surprised that I would have missed one somewhere along the way over the course of those 2 hours with all the convoluted stuff. But anyway, yeah, not a whole lot, no matter what, when it comes to spare parts. But I did want to show you that sticker sheet. Here that is. So I mentioned it's like as big as the bike. It's literally like almost as big as the bike itself. Ignore some of the cutouts and stuff. It's significant. Fortunately, I think if you leave off most if not all of these stickers, you'll still end up with something that looks really good. I did not wait until the very end to apply my stickers, so I did not even have an opportunity to take a photo of this without stickers. I'm sure that there are some out there on the internet if you want to see how that looks. I personally think that this one is important down here. Beyond that, I think you can probably leave off most of it if you want to have a relatively clean look. Nothing else is really going to hurt. Last thing, just about the blue pins and the yellow and the red pieces and stuff. I very frequently complain about those things. Their unsightliness, especially on system-based builds that just have Technic frames or Technic add-ons. Here, this to me feels enough like just a pure semi-classic style of Lego Technic build where the focus is really on the mechanical stuff. And in the end, I personally, and maybe I'm wrong for this, but I personally in this case don't feel so offended by all the blue pins and the yellow axles and the red axles and everything. It doesn't bother me. They don't bother me this time because it just feels like part of the soul of Technic and the fact that this has been assembled from lots of little, mostly normal pieces. That's just the impression that I get here. Had this been a car that was trying to be realistic, interestingly enough, I would definitely be complaining about those. And it's not just because I prefer cars to bikes. I think what does that for me mentally and psychologically is the fact that so much of the frame is exposed and so much of the work that you do here is building up that frame that is ultimately exposed and the mechanisms inside. So there's just a lot more, to me, a lot more focus on the build, on the engineering, and the mechanical details of the assembly of this as a Lego Technic model. Long-winded way to say I just am not bothered by that stuff here. The set sells for $70 US, which for 650 approximately pieces gives it a really, really generous price to part ratio for Technic stuff. Usually you expect something very different, a very different number. Folks who are used to the desire of 10 cents per part for system stuff, which is itself kind of unreasonable much of the time these days. Kind of have to use a different scale typically for Technic stuff, especially since Technic uses so many complex parts, so many large parts. I mean, all these panel pieces and everything are huge compared to the average Lego, brick-based part, not to mention the brake discs, the hub back here, the forks, the wheels, the tires. I mean, that's all pretty big deal stuff. The cylinder and piston pieces in there. I mean, these are specialized things. So for this to be just $70, I find to be completely satisfactory. And for the amount of stuff that I get here, even not digging into the fact that this is full, like the build in here is, there's no hollow space. Well, maybe this little sliver here and there, but I mean, it's not just a shell, it's filled up with stuff. Even not considering that directly, this still feels right to me. For this to be $70, yeah, just one more thing that I'm happy with here. So this is just almost all good. Again, bodywork could have been filled in a little bit more. If they just had one more panel here, I think that would have gone a long way. They figured out a way to attach that. And I'm just looking at it thinking, like, what could I do there? How could I do that? I need to get some custom small panel pieces in the different sizes and shapes and all. Overall, pretty good set. If you have any interest in this, but you're kind of on the fence because maybe you are not that much of a Technic fan yourself, I would say go for it. I think you'll be pretty happy with the end result. And happy to just look at this thing. It's the type of thing where you'll put it on your desk and it won't just gather dust, because frequently enough, your eyes will just be drawn to it and you'll want to touch it. You want to grab it. You want to like turn the forks and just look at it from different angles. And when you do that, you're gonna be like, oh, there's some dust on there. So it's kind of like a self-dusting thing in that way. Funny how that can work with some things. I do have the full build process that I captured for this pure build and speed build version. So if you want to see how that went together with my mistakes plus the fixing of those mistakes, you can check those out on their respective channels. The links are in the video description and also in the end screen, which is coming up right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon, here and everywhere. Or maybe not talk, but see.